Hey there, welcome back to Ask Amy. I have a question today from Leslie. Leslie says, you say that life lives us, but how does that fit in with making or responding to career opportunities or reaching your full potential in life? How come some people are homeless while others earn millions? Such a good question, Leslie, and obviously I don't have any definitive answers for you, but I do I love this. I love this question. I love looking in this direction. And I feel like I have a real sense of something I'm going to try to get across in language. Okay, so when I talk about life living us, which, as you know, Leslie, and many of you listening, I talk about all the time, there's a feel to it. There's a feel to it that I want you to see if you can get a sense for. And I think this is really important here in that, thoughts show up for us. Feelings show up for us. We don't control those. We don't put them there. We don't have any ultimate say in them. Thought, feeling, idea, action. As thought and feeling show up, actions are taken. All of this is showing up through us, for us, as life. And there's this seamless flow that is just carrying on all the time. And this is kind of what I mean when I say that life lives us. It's not really accurate to say life lives us as if there's life and there's us. I mean, the way it looks to me is it's all one thing. We are life. And so we are lived. Like, life is constantly evolving and ebbing and flowing and expanding. And this experience of a me living life or of a you living life, that's an experience within this amazing, beautiful, effortless, seamless flow of things. So how things show up in this showing up, there's this experience of me as a separate person who's seeing things and learning things and thinking things and feeling things and making decisions and making choices. And I think we kind of probably have a sense that is the experience of me as separate, doing and making all of these things happening. But again, as we back up, as we zoom out a little bit, there is no little you that's separate from the whole of life. So what are you controlling? It's all one energy in the big picture of things. So the way it looks to me is that, as these psychological, physical, biological beings that appear separate, we have these brains that are constantly learning, constantly seeing new things, constantly living through the imprints of what's happened in the past, right? So just think about a little kid going to school. You have a class of first graders and they're going to school, and all these little 5-year-olds brand new at school, and they get shown information and talked to and shared and asked questions. And in the course of that, these little 5-year-old brains, they just learn things. They see things. These kids are different from the first day of school into the last day of school. Now, did they have to make that happen? No, they're wired for it. Did they show up? Sure. Do they pay attention? Sometimes. So all of that happens. But there is no control. There is no little Joey, making himself learn more from the first day to the last day of school. There's just showing up, and there's learning that happens, and there's seeing new things, and there's growing up and maturing. And all of that happens through us, for us, as us, all the time through life, all the time. So that's happening for all of us now. We see new things. We have new thoughts. We're also extremely conditioned. We have these brains and minds that are extremely conditioned, and we carry things from the past, and all of that contributes, I think, to what each of us sees, what we sense as potential. To your question, Leslie, what we want to even go for as a career opportunity, what even occurs to us to put in the realm of possibility as a career opportunity, all of that comes from some magical combination that I don't think anyone will ever fully understand of learning, conditioning, biology, imprints from who knows where, from what we think is possible, our mood in the moment, our confidence in a given moment. All of that kind of comes together to say, oh, I think I'm going to apply for this job, or I would like to do this as a career. Whatever that is, it's this magical mix of psychology and biology and neurology and so many things that kind of have us living out a life. Now, I know sometimes that can feel, people don't like that because that kind of feels like, oh, so I'm just playing out my biology. This is just about genetics, or it's predestined, or it's determined. And I don't think it's any of that at all. I think all of these things are in there and they're moving us along and playing a role for sure. I don't think life is predestined. I think life is a living thing. It's not really a thing, but it's this living energy. There's no like, oh, here's what's going to happen on this date at this time. I mean, that's the way a brain thinks about it. That's the way a linear mind thinks about it. But ultimately, it's like the ocean. It's like the waves crashing on the shore. It's just aliveness itself. I don't think there's a specific plan. But again, I don't know. That's just how that piece looks to me. So see if you can get a sense, Leslie, for how, yes, life is living us, and in that there is learning and seeing and insights and doing new things and whatever occurs to us. Now, here's the paradox that our mind will never, ever understand. If there is no separate you, if you are not separate from the whole of life. Your mind tells you are, right? And we feel like we inhabit this body and we have this identity and we're separate. And at that mind level, that looks to be the case. But as we back up, it's all one. It's all one energy. There is no actual separation outside of a thought. So there is no separate little you. That means there is no you. There is no life that you over here, separate from life, get to control. That means there's in the biggest sense of the word, there is no control. There is no you making decisions and making things happen. If we can kind of hold that over here and also at the same time see that, okay, fine, that may be true. And in our day-to-day psychological experience, we feel like a me, we feel separate, and we feel like we're interacting with this. An idea comes and we can let it go, or we can jump on it. A fear comes and we can have that fear. We can totally buy into that fear and have it keep us really small, or we can see it as a fear and keep going. So we have this sense of interacting and co-creating and playing with life. And we are life on the other hand. So again, this is where it feels like a paradox. Your mind can't resolve these two things. But when your mind's just very light with this, you can kind of see how it can all be true. It's all true. Both of those things are true. So, yes, we have all this conditioning and learning happens, and ultimately, the way it looks to me, Leslie, is we don't make decisions. We don't make the decision in the biggest sense of the word. We aren't controlling anything because we are everything. And in this experience of a me in life, it's so fun to just kind of be at the edge of that and play with this and interact with it and notice what shows up and see where it feels like we get to push the boundaries. So for example, this past week, I was just with my mastermind group. We've been meeting twice a year for 7 years now, which is crazy. We meet on Zoom in between, but we meet together and we find our way to each other 2 times every year for 4 days. And we've been doing this for 7 years. And what we do for each other is we can see things for each other that personally we cannot see ourselves. So the whole idea about my change coach training years ago, 4 or 5 years ago now, I thought, yeah, maybe a few people, I don't know, would people really want that? And in my group said, are you kidding me? Here's what you could put out right now. Here's how that could look. So, and we do that for each other. So that's just the way it is, right? Like we can't see stuff for ourselves, but when you're with a group that knows you and loves you and can see bigger than what you can see for yourself, it's amazing. So we meet and we play with this and we all kind of, sounds kind of crazy, but it's like we all let our personal identity focused, linear, logical minds relax, and we feel into what wants to happen, what's possible. And could we do that privately at home? Sure, in some ways, I guess, but it just doesn't work the same, and I don't understand it, and I don't know why. But there's something in that sort of thing, and that's, again, just one example of this, where it feels like there's this co-creation. Are we in charge of what happens, and can we just go out and control? I don't think so. And can we feel a nudge and at some moments really open to that? Yeah. And sometimes it's easier, when we're in certain states of mind and around different people. And so I don't know all the answers to these questions, like how come someone can work their way to being a millionaire and move on ideas and inspiration, whereas someone else never moves on anything and they feel afraid for the rest of their life. I don't know what makes that difference, and I don't think anyone does. But I think for each of us, what we can do is just be curious about that and open to what's showing up for us. We can't put inspiration in our heads. We can't find inspiration somewhere and make it come alive in us, but we can notice what's happening already. We can be open to what's happening already. And every single one of us has a new idea every once in a while. Every single one of us has a hope, has a dream, a fantasy about something. And sometimes the thinking comes in that says, oh, forget it, that doesn't happen for people like you. And other times that exact same thinking comes in and we see that as thinking. Now, what makes the difference between someone seeing it and not seeing it? I have no idea. None of us knows. But that's okay, because that's just how it works, So we don't have to understand all this and know how it works to be able to be in this flow of life as the flow of life, and really kind of push things in a more open, expansive way. Now, again, I totally recognize that everything I just said can sound very paradoxical. It does. I'm saying we have no ultimate control. There is no you that's part of life. And I'm saying expand, be curious, let your mind open. I get it. And in some bigger, deeper way, I know that both of those are true. And it doesn't, again, truth doesn't really matter. What I'm saying is let's experiment with this and play with it ourselves. We all know what that feels like to play with it ourselves. So we don't have to know, how things are all working behind the scenes to jump in life and just play, be curious, experiment, allow things to be open, see thought as thought. And to your question, Leslie, of why some people are millionaires and some people are homeless, I feel like there's something in that makes a massive, massive difference. What allows one person to be curious and play and not another? I don't know. But if you're watching this, you're being pushed in this direction. I mean, you just are. You're here. Most of the world is not in this kind of conversation. Most of the world is complaining about the world right now. You're not. You're in a different conversation. Don't need to know why. We're never going to know why. But be grateful and have fun in it. And feel into that and see what opens up. So I hope this is helpful. Something in my ramblings is helpful. And again, I totally acknowledge the paradox, but I think everything in life is paradoxical, but only to the mind, When our mind wants to get in a pretzel about this stuff, as we relax, we can see, oh yeah, I can see how it could all be true. It's all there. So thank you so much, Leslie, for sending your question. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you back here next Monday. Bye everyone.